And now I'm going to bring on Reshma Sojourner. I hope I pronounced your name properly. I
Yes.
know that so many people butcher my last name. And I learned, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, we have too many problems as moms to be stuck on our pronunciation. But thank you, Reshma, for joining us.
Thank you.
So many people, I am trying not to introduce you because I want you to introduce yourself. And I know that a lot of people already know you because you are a professional troublemaker. You have stormed Wall Street and Capitol Hill, and you have demanded that mothers be paid. And so I want to just, you know, I want you to tell us, why should mothers be paid? Tell us about you and why you think moms need to get paid right now.
Yeah, well, I started 2020. I'm the founder and was the CEO of Girls Who Code, and so I started 2020 with a newborn baby and a 5-year-old, and I was finally going to take some time off of work so I could take care of my new son. Girls Who Code had just had a Super Bowl ad. We were on the top of the world. And then COVID-19 happened, and I had to go back to work when my son was a few weeks old. I had to homeschool my 5-year-old, and I had to save my nonprofit from the pandemic, because when pandemics hit, as you know, Blessing, the first resources to go are those to women and girls. I was working 16, 17 hours a day, just exhausted. I got COVID-19, but it barely registered. My liver failed. I got acne on my face as if, I was 16 years old. And when I looked at my Zoom screen, every mom looked exactly how I felt. And my leadership team at Girls Who Code is a lot of moms. And when we would talk about what's coming next, we would say, you know what? When the schools are open, everything will be fine. And when the schools didn't open, and we all got these emails introducing hybrid learning, where we had to log on our kids at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, all the while maintaining our full-time jobs, I thought, gosh, like, this is crazy. And you started seeing in those months, the December jobs report, where all the jobs lost were women of color. And there was no plan. I remember thinking, well, someone's got to have a plan. Like, you can't lose this many jobs without a plan. And so I didn't see one. And so I wrote an op-ed saying that we needed a Marshall Plan for moms. And that really ignited a conversation and a movement to start to say that, mothers are not America's social safety net. And, moms are used to saying things so they're blue in the face. And a lot of the things we need, they're not revolutionary or new. They're the same things that we've needed forever. One, we need cash. During COVID, so many moms said, I just need money to pay the mortgage, buy my kids some shoes, you know what I mean? Pay a tutor, just money to make the choices that I need to make in my life. I need affordable childcare. My parents came here as refugees, and my dad couldn't afford the $50 a week for childcare. So I was a latchkey kid from the time I was my son's age, 6 years old. And so many moms, so many dads are making unconscionable choices because childcare is way too expensive. We need paid leave. We're one of the only nations in America that doesn't offer paid leave. We need schools to open up safely. We need women of color to be retrained whose jobs have been automated. And so that was really the core, of the Marshall Plan. And, this week you're watching how little this country values its mothers. We spent more money bailing out Delta Airlines. The same exact amount would have bailed out the childcare industry. But when we talk about that, that's socialism, right? That's giving somebody something for doing nothing. Really? Like, this country would not survive if it were not for its moms. And so it shows how little we are respected, how little consideration is made. And this is why you are still, almost a year and a half later, seeing women are only 37% of the labor workforce. We've had the largest exodus of women leaving the workforce because this is not working, and no one seems to care.
And so Reshma, I mean, you have nailed. I'm like, are you sure you're not? You, I mean, it just seems like you basically articulated how we've all felt, especially leaders in this space when it comes to care and when it comes to women and families. We've all just felt like this is a slap in our face. I know that I was in corporate America up until September last year. And I just threw in the towel. I said, you know what, I'm done, right? I was breastfeeding, cooking, cleaning, on Zoom calls from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I had a manager call me at 8 p.m. saying that I need to be always available since I am now working from home. And I mean, it was literally a slap in my face. And speaking to thousands of mothers in the Mother Honestly community, we were all going through the same thing. And I remember too in the early stages when we thought that if we all just continue to wash our hands and stay indoors, stay home. I think everybody remember the hashtag
Yeah.
that we would bend the curve and things would go back to normal. And it was almost like moms keep doing what you need to do, right? And we should be back to normal. And we were never back to normal. And yet there was no help. It was there was no help, there was no plan, and there is still no plan. So I wanna talk a little bit about the Marshall plans for mom, because one of the things that you mentioned is this
Yeah.
invisible labor, unseen labor, unpaid work that we all continue to do as mothers, as women of color,
Yeah.
and it's about $1.5 trillion
Yeah.
in the United States alone. And when we look at even how that was computed, right, almost it's a literal slap in our face. It was based on $7.25 an hour. That was how the $1.5 trillion, which is a huge amount, was calculated. And we actually computed that to say, wow, I mean, if you take, $1.5 trillion and you divide it by 7.25, I mean, you're talking billions of hours that
Yeah.
are being spent on unpaid work. So, can you share exactly what the Marshall Plan has helped us achieve? Because I know you have done a lot of work. You've been very vocal, which is why I called you a troublemaker. You've been very vocal around, you know, the need for support, especially around childcare, where we've had a debilitating crisis.
Yeah.
Which is quite frankly being the major reason why women have been forced out of the workforce. So share a little bit about some of the accomplishments of the Marshall
Yeah.
Plan for
So
moms.
I would say, we've introduced a couple of bills in Congress. The Marshall Plan for Moms, introduced by Senator Klobuchar and Congresswoman Grace Ming. We've had a handful of bills introduced in New York City, in LA, in Virginia, asking for a Marshall Plan for Moms task force. Blessing, what we really need is a women's job czar in every city, in every municipality that literally has a spreadsheet saying how many women of color have left the workforce here in New York City? How are we doing on bringing them back? What are the levers that we're pushing? And we're literally making sure that we're getting back to and even better than where we were before. But we need someone whose job it is, right? Who's got the KPIs and who's so we're really pushing for that to happen in the States. We released a Marshall Plan for Moms playbook. You know, Workplaces have always been broken for moms. Like you said, I mean, I cannot tell you how many women have been gaslit at work, right? Because they have to pick their kids home or their kid interrupts their Zoom. There's the only reason why we have a pay gap between men and women is the pay gap between moms and dads. There is no pay gap between childless women and men because moms are seen when they have children as not committed to their jobs, whereas dads, they get paid more. So, you're literally penalized for being a mother. We're arguing about this return to normal. I was talking to a friend today, and her kid is quarantined. Like most of our kids, at some point, are going to be. And so she's at home, back where she was a year ago, zooming her kid while she's trying to meet. So there is no return to normal. Yet, ironically, every single CEO in America is like demanding that we come back to work when, as if there's no Delta variant, as if our kids are vaccinated, as if schools are open. Like nothing has changed. But they don't do that work because 86% of the unpaid labor is done by moms. So
Absolutely.
they don't have to worry when their kids are quarantined because not their problem. Their wife's got it.
And how
So
many? Sorry to interrupt you, but how is one of the research that also, of course, has cropped up is the fact that a lot of this men in leadership, the top 1% or 5%, if you will, majority of them have stay-at-home,
yeah,
spouses that have, of course, made it possible for them to have this amazing career, and so they are completely oblivious to what is happening in everyday homes. And so when we speak to whether it's our leaders, the business leaders, or Congress members, is Marshall Plan for Moms, bringing up some of this almost salient points, but
Yes,
really it's about, are you need to step outside of your home and actually
yes,
step into your constituents' homes, probably.
yes. And have a conversation about this unpaid labor. Look, the big blessing, the big realization I had is that if we don't get to gender equality in the home, we'll never get to gender equality in the workplace. But the solution is not always having your partner do more, because America has so many families that are single moms. 70% of Black women are the single breadwinner and the single caretaker. So that is why the structures are very important. That's why we can't look at childcare as socialization, right? That we have to look at as a fundamental benefit, that people deserve. We have to allow women to, all women, not just wealthy women, all women, to move in and out of the workforce. That staying at home. It's funny. It was brilliant. I had this. I did a symposium, and Betsy Stevenson, Obama's economist, was talking, and she said, even the tax code basically tells you who's a good mom and who's a bad mom. So for white collar workers, they tax you so much because they really want you to stay at home and take care of your kids. But for low income workers, they make childcare so expensive that you have to go to work. So we don't give, low income women the choice. And everyone should get to stay home with their kids for that first year, whatever you want. You should have control and choice. And that is the fight that we've never had before that we need to have. So it's not about stay at home moms versus working moms. It's not about white collar moms versus, low wage workers. It's really about saying the entire system is broken, and motherhood is not a choice that means that you don't get to have benefits or support from your employer, your partner, your family, or the government.
And you are absolutely hitting all of the key points. One of the panels we had earlier was talking about exactly what you're saying, which is this isn't about stay-at-home moms or working mothers. We are all going through it. Stay-at-home moms were hit. I mean, just because you stay home doesn't mean you're actually doing childcare all day. Kids are in school, and suddenly there were, schools were closed, daycare were closed, and now everyone is home. And now that kids are even going back to school, we are having issues with people, with folks being quarantined, right? Kids being quarantined, and moms having to pull back. But what is your take on how we actually, what kind of change we need to be asking for, right? Should we really be asking for support for moms, or should we be asking for, or in addition to that, be asking for a change in how work is being done? This
I
idea that
I
we
see
need,
all across the board, right?
absolutely.
We need structure support, so we need to pass a reconciliation bill and then some, right? And part of the problem, blessing, is that we don't have a moms movement that is built on issues for moms. We have moms that are fighting. We're always fighting for our kids, right? So we got mothers who are fighting for gun reform, mothers who are fighting for climate change, mothers who are fighting against drunk driving. But because we have been taught that we don't get to ask for anything, we have never built a movement of moms fighting for moms issues. So there is a void there. A Marshall Plan for Moms is really trying to build that army, and that. But again, like, and you're seeing this past week, we're so tired. I'm not marching for paid leave because I'm just so exhausted. So you also got to give moms a minute and figure out how we can organize in a way and meet moms where they're at. And so I think all of us should be thinking about that. I think for the private sector, now is the time to demand for a different kind of workplace. And it's funny, blessing, like, I actually think the men want it. I think the kids, the 20-year-old kids want it. Everybody wants the same thing. So I've really been encouraging these young women, these 50-year-old dads, you ask for it. You ask to work 2 days a week. Don't put it on me. You know what I mean? You want it too. So this isn't a mom's issue.
Make it a man's problem. We heard that earlier. Make it a man's problem.
It's a man's problem. And then I think that the cultural piece is very important too. Look, think about like all the negative images that we have about moms of color, You know what I mean? Working moms, etc. Right? It's like you're a tiger mom, you're a bad mom, you're a this mom, right? It's not, and that's why the birth rate's declining. It's not cool to be a mom, right? And so that's deeply we have to change the cultural perspective. Like, I want to live in a world, Blessing, where no woman comes to me and says, I want to have a child, but I don't want to have, I guess I can't have a career. Like, what? I want choice. I want choice, and I want control over my life. Sorry, I'm going to blow my nose while I talk to you.
No,
Of
no
course, I've
problem.
got a bad cold
While you're
today.
doing that, I will mention that, first of all, thank you for everything that you've been doing with Marshall Plans for Moms, because I think you have inspired a lot of women. I think we had chatted on Mother Honestly, saying, hey, I mean, the women of Iceland took a day off. Maybe it's time to like kick the Marshall Plans for Moms even further and and actually match right for moms, and literally take a day off, and see how the economy is going to respond to that. I bet all of the Dow points will probably
100%.
NASDAQ and the rest of it. But we have to be a troublemaker one way or another. Before as we close, I want to ask you, what can we do right now to help the Marshall Plans for Moms? What can our community do? What can moms listening right now? What can we do to support the work that you're doing with Marshall Plans for Moms? Because I think it's just important for all of us to sort of come together and continue to demand for these changes, like you said, because there's just never been a time where women are like, you know what, let's go for it. Let's demand for what we need.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I would want everyone to come to marshallplanformoms.com and sign up, to our website so you can get information. But I think all of us, because there are a lot of amazing moms organizations like yours. And I think all of us have to figure out, how do we take our moms from rage to power? What are the little levers that we can pull every single day? Because part of what's so upsetting and infuriating is this bill is not passing in Congress because they don't take us seriously. And we have got to start building that political power. And this is, again, so many communities have stood where we're at right now, where we are the population, but our power in terms of our constituency, you know what I mean, isn't like, we should have been able to get that done in a second. And there's so much we need. And I think it's the same thing at work. It's like, most moms I know are terrified to go into work and saying, I'm not going to come back. This is what I need, right? And so we have to figure out how we recognize that we are powerful and that we matter, and that this is not okay. Like, how we are treated is not okay. Especially because, I don't know, Blessing, it's like, the title that I value the most is mother. Like, I'm wearing my Mom of the Year shirt. Like, I love being a mom, and I want other women to have, what we've had and what we have as moms, and not feel like it is an identity, a role that is not dignified. And because it should be, and it is, and so we need to make it be.
I love that. I especially love when you said going, identifying the rage and translating that to power, because we definitely we need that. Reshma, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
And I am excited about the work that you're doing, and we will continue to find ways to support, and find ways to match out there, and demand for a better quality of life for ourselves and our children, and honestly the next generation of girls, because I don't want the girls saddled with this reality, that motherhood it will come right at the expense of their career or their
well, and not only that, the last point too, it's like, there's I see this with my Girls Who Code. It's like, so many of it's the 14, 15, 16-year-old Black girls that are doing the care work, because our care structure is broken. So they're not logging on to school. They're not able to march up into the middle class. They're not able to learn how to be a computer scientist, because we are failing them, because we're not fixing our structure of care. So we have to have a 2-generational strategy and approach to this. Okay, with that, love you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Reshma. Have a wonderful rest of your week.